History textbooks declare the British Empire dead and buried, its colonial flags lowered from Africa to Asia throughout the 20th century as indigenous nations reclaimed their sovereignty. Maps were redrawn, governments transferred, and London's direct political control faded into sepia-toned photographs and museum exhibits chronicling a bygone imperial era. Yet amid this celebrated decolonization, certain bloodlines never received the memo about surrendering their commercial kingdoms built during Victoria's reign. The Union Jack may have been replaced on government buildings, but in boardrooms across Hong Kong, Singapore and Jakarta, one British family still rules an empire built on 19th century opium profits and maintained through 6 generations of strategic adaptation. Indeed, the Keswick family have transformed themselves from colonial opium merchants into modern, diversified multi-billionaires billionaires by maintaining iron-fisted control over a sprawling conglomerate that push everything from luxury hotels like the Mandarin Oriental to Toyota sedans across 8 Asian nations. Therefore, in today's episode of Old Money Luxury, we uncover how a single family's colonial adventure evolved into perhaps history's most successful case of wealth preservation, proving that while empires may fall, certain dynasties endure by mastering the art of invisible influence. The Keswick family sits on a fortune of $1.586 billion through a 13.63% stake in Jardine Matheson, a company that began peddling opium and now peddles everything from luxury penthouses to Toyota sedans. And their collection of over 39 million shares transforms this Scottish clan into Asian tycoons with extraordinary influence over a conglomerate worth €28.99 billion. Now, Forbes places them at 34th position on Hong Kong's 50 richest list with an estimated net worth of $2.35 billion, practically middle class by the standards of Asia's ultra-wealthy elite. But these masters of financial engineering have created a labyrinth of voting rights and cross-shareholding arrangements that amplify their 13% stake into controlling power over an empire spanning 8 countries. Current family patriarch Ben Keswick presides over this financial kingdom as executive chairman, the 6th-generation face of a dynasty that predates the telephone, the light bulb, and almost every company on the stock exchange. And the corporate empire under Keswick control generates staggering numbers: $109.3 billion in annual revenue, $4.1 billion in operating income, and total assets of $91.4 billion as of 2021. Jardine Matheson ranks as the 640th most valuable company globally, commanding a market capitalization equivalent to 2.728 trillion Indian rupees, a number that they could constantly brag about, but they're too old money for that. And their business tentacles stretch across Asia through 8 major subsidiaries, including Jardine Pacific, Jardine Motors, and Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group. A swanky set of digs you've probably heard name dropped a few times by your so-called rich friends. The geography of their profit streams reveals their strategic focus. 55% flows from mainland China, 42% from Southeast Asia, and just 3% from the rest of the planet combined. Naturally, these numbers translate into substantial personal luxuries, including the historic Orr estate in Wiltshire, England, previously owned by the late Henry Keswick, who served as chairman from 1972 to 2018. Their property portfolio includes not just 1, but 2 Scottish sporting estates, plus expansive landholdings throughout southwest Scotland, where the family maintains its ancestral connection despite spending generations in Hong Kong's rarefied business circles. The thousands of hectares under Keswick ownership in Scotland provide ample space for grouse shooting, salmon fishing, and contemplating how their 165-year-old business continues thriving amid Asian economic turmoil. Yet, behind today's corporate labyrinth lies a 19th-century Scottish connection so perfectly timed it transformed 2 trading houses into a dynasty, the original merger and acquisition that continues paying dividends 6 generations later. The cold Scottish winds that swept across Dumfriesshire in 1784 gave no hint that the farmer's son born there on February 24th would one day reshape an empire halfway around the world. William Jardine, orphaned by his father's death when he was only 9, possessed a fierce determination that his modest beginnings could never contain. His older brother David, seeing something extraordinary in the boy, scraped together enough money to send him to the University of Edinburgh Medical School at 16, an investment that would alter the course of Asian history. By 1802, the 18-year-old Jardine had qualified as a surgeon from Edinburgh's Royal College, but medicine would prove merely the vessel carrying him toward his true destiny. Aboard East India Company ships, where officers were permitted private cargo space, Jardine discovered that trading exotic goods, cassia, cochineal, musk, yielded profits that dwarfed a surgeon's salary, a revelation that transformed the physician into a merchant. After 14 years at sea, he abandoned medicine entirely in 1817, plunging headlong into the perilous but profitable waters of independent trading in Canton. While Jardine was navigating his commercial ascent, another ambitious Scotsman named James Matheson entered the world on October 17, 1796, in Sutherland, born into a family whose blood already ran thick with mercantile ambitions. Young Matheson, educated at Edinburgh's finest institutions and connected through family to Indian trade networks, secured a position as a free merchant with the East India Company at 19, his youth belying his commercial cunning. Chafing under the constraints of his Calcutta apprenticeship, he fled after 3 years to Canton's bustling harbours, where Chinese silks, tea and silver flowed like rivers into Western hands. In 1821, with strategic brilliance that foreshadowed his future success, Matheson established Irisari and Company with a Basque partner and made the fateful decision to shift opium trading operations from Macau to Lintin Island, rewriting the geography of what would become the most controversial commerce of the century. When William Jardine joined the prestigious Magniac and Company in 1825, he brought not just his medical background, but an intricate web of trading relationships stretching from Bombay to Britain. James Matheson joined the same firm 3 years later, his youthful exuberance and creative flair complementing Jardine's methodical patience, a partnership forged not through friendship, but mutual recognition of extraordinary commercial opportunity. On July 1, 1832, Jardine, Matheson and Company officially emerged, built upon the skeleton of partnerships dating back 50 years, but now animated by the ruthless commercial vision of two Scottish traders who saw fortunes where others saw only foreign shores. The cornerstone of their rapidly expanding empire was opium, grown under British supervision in India, smuggled by their agents into China, and exchanged for silver that would purchase tea for Britain's insatiable market, completing a circuit of trade that drained wealth from the Chinese empire while flooding it with addiction. Through Jardine's connection with Indian merchant Jamsetji Jajibhoy, a friendship born in 1805 when both were captured by French forces, the company secured unmatched access to the highest quality Malwa and Patna opium. When Imperial Commissioner Lin Zexu seized 20,000 cases of foreign opium in 1839, Jardine sailed to London with maps, statistics, and persuasive arguments that convinced Foreign Secretary Lord Palmerston that British naval guns were the appropriate response to China's enforcement of its own laws. The First Opium War erupted soon after. Its British victory crystallized in the 1842 Treaty of Nanking that prized open Chinese ports and handed Hong Kong to Britain, a slice of the Middle Kingdom where Jardine Matheson promptly purchased the first plot of land sold. A second Opium War in 1860 further shattered Chinese sovereignty, allowing the company to expand from opium into shipping, insurance, railways, cotton mills, and countless other ventures across Asia. Both founders leveraged their commercial conquests to gain political power, Jardine as Member of Parliament for Ashburton until his death in 1843, Matheson also entering Parliament while using his fortune to purchase the entire Isle of Lewis in Scotland, where he cleared 500 families from their ancestral lands to make way for his development schemes. The company's executives became known as taipans, big bosses, their influence extending far beyond commerce into the colonial administration of Hong Kong, where British policy often aligned suspiciously well with Jardine Matheson's interests. As William Jardine succumbed to illness in 1843 and James Matheson retreated to his Scottish estate, the mammoth trading house faced a leadership vacuum that would draw in a Scottish clan whose descendants still control the Asian trading colossus today, the Keswicks, whose commercial dynasty would extend the reach of Jardine Matheson far beyond even what its founders had envisioned. The Scottish connection that would fill the leadership vacuum left by Jardine and Matheson began not with a business transaction, but with a marriage, when Thomas Keswick wed Margaret Johnston, niece of Dr. William Jardine and daughter of Jean Jardine Johnston, a union that would bind two families and forge a commercial dynasty spanning continents and centuries. From this union emerged the man who would truly establish the Keswick dynasty, William Keswick, born on April 15, 1834, in the rolling countryside of Dumfriesshire, where the winds carried no whisper of the Asian empire he would one day command. In 1855, as the Crimean War raged in distant fields, 21-year-old William Keswick boarded a ship bound for China and Hong Kong, becoming the first of what would eventually stretch into 6 generations of Keswicks entwined with the fortunes of Jardine Matheson. The young Scotsman's ascent through the company hierarchy proved meteoric. Within 4 years, he had established a Jardine Matheson office in Yokohama, extending the company's commercial tentacles into Japan just as that isolated empire reluctantly opened to Western trade. By 1862, William had returned to Hong Kong as a partner in the firm, his vision and ambition recognized by the aging founders who saw in him the future of their commercial empire. 12 years later, in 1874, William Keswick assumed the title of Taipan, the supreme position within the company, now presiding over a trading house whose influence stretched from London docks to Tokyo harbours. His leadership extended beyond mere commerce into the governance of Britain's prized colony, serving 3 terms on Hong Kong's legislative and executive councils between 1868 and 1887, where colonial policy and Jardine Matheson interests frequently aligned with suspicious precision. While in Hong Kong, William cultivated diplomatic connections as well, serving as Consul General for the distant Kingdom of Hawaii, a role that earned him the title of Knight Commander of the Hawaiian Order of Kalakau, an exotic honorific for a Scotsman who had travelled far from his homeland's shores. After 12 years as Taipan, William departed Hong Kong in 1886 to take control of Matheson and Company in London, now answerable only to Sir Robert Jardine himself, cementing the Keswick family's position at both the Asian and European ends of the business empire. His influence in British society grew alongside his commercial stature, establishing a grand family home at Eastwick Park in Surrey, serving as the county's High Sheriff in 1898, and representing Epsom as a Member of Parliament from 1899, his political career reflecting the growing prominence of Far Eastern trade interests in British imperial politics. When William Keswick died on March 9, 1912, he left behind not just substantial wealth, but a legacy that his son Henry would inherit and extend. Born in 1870 in Shanghai, Henry Keswick breathed the air of international commerce from his first moments, assuming his birthright at Jardine Matheson after gaining experience in the company's New York offices and arriving in Hong Kong in 1895. Like his father before him, Henry served as Member of Parliament for Epsom while maintaining his directorship at Jardines, embodying the intertwining of British political and commercial interests in Asia. In 1911, the symmetry between empire and business was made visible when Henry returned to Britain to represent Hong Kong at the coronation of King George V, his presence acknowledging the crucial role of merchant princes in maintaining Britain's far-flung imperial possessions. Henry later sailed his yacht, Cutty Sark, back to Hong Kong in 1922, a journey that symbolized the ease with which the Keswicks navigated between East and West, between the company's Asian operations and its London boardrooms. When death claimed Henry in 1928, he left an estate valued at £466,409, roughly £46 million in modern currency, and 3 sons who would carry the Keswick name into the tumultuous decades ahead: David Johnston, William Johnston Tony, and John Henry Keswick. As the world trembled on the precipice of depression and war, these 3 brothers would face challenges their father and grandfather never imagined, steering Jardine Matheson through the darkest hours of Japanese occupation and into an era where Asian nationalism would threaten the very foundations of the trading empire their ancestors had built. The 3 brothers who inherited the Keswick dynasty faced a world spiraling into chaos, Shanghai burning, empires crumbling, and the certainties of colonial commerce dissolving beneath their feet. William Johnston, Tony Keswick, born in Yokohama in 1903, returned to his ancestral Britain for education at Winchester College and Trinity College, Cambridge, before sailing back to Asia in 1926 to claim his birthright within the family enterprise. By 1935, Tony had ascended to leadership of the Shanghai office, then Jardine's Far Eastern headquarters, where he oversaw the company's interests amid the growing shadow of Japanese militarism that was engulfing China. As chairman of the Shanghai Municipal Council during the tense pre-war years, Tony embodied the fading authority of Western commercial interests in China, surviving an assassination attempt when a Japanese representative shot him after he announced a rate increase at a public meeting on the Shanghai racecourse, his life saved by the heavy fur-lined overcoat that stopped the bullet. When war finally erupted across the Pacific in 1941, Tony's commercial expertise transformed into strategic intelligence as he served as head of the China Theatre for Britain's Special Operations Executive, the merchant prince becoming spy master in service to the empire that had long protected his family's commercial interests. His younger brother John Keswick, born in 1906 and arriving in Shanghai in 1929, assumed control of the company's operations after Tony's shooting, later fleeing to Ceylon when Japanese forces captured the city, but continuing to serve British interests by joining Admiral Lord Louis Mountbatten's staff. After Japan's defeat in 1945, John returned to a devastated Shanghai, working tirelessly to rebuild Jardine's trading networks throughout a China now locked in civil war between nationalist and communist forces. The communist victory in 1949 forced a pivotal moment in the company's history, the relocation of Jardine's head office to Hong Kong, followed by a painful withdrawal from mainland China in 1954, with losses totaling $20 million as the company's interests were effectively nationalized by Mao Zedong's government. John Keswick's administrative talents extended beyond business into colonial governance when he joined the Hong Kong Executive Council in 1952, retiring as Taipan the following year, but later orchestrating with his brother the buyout and public flotation of Jardine Matheson, a financial restructuring that modernized the century-old trading house. As the colonial era waned, the 4th generation of Keswicks emerged to navigate the treacherous waters of late 20th century globalization and Asian economic transformation. Henry Neville Lindley Keswick, Tony's son born in Shanghai on September 29, 1938, joined Jardine's in 1961 after education at Eton and Cambridge, his rise through company ranks meteoric, director by 1967, senior managing director by 1970, and chairman by 1972 at just 33 years of age. While his brother Chippendale, Chips Keswick, broke family tradition by building his career at London merchant bank Hambros instead of Jardine's, youngest brother Simon Keswick remained loyal to the family business, joining in 1962 and eventually returning as senior managing director in 1983 after his father orchestrated the removal of managing director David Newbigging. Under Simon's leadership, Jardine Matheson underwent a strategic metamorphosis, diversifying internationally rather than remaining exclusively tied to Hong Kong, and crucially, redomiciling the firm's holding office to Bermuda to shield it from the uncertainties surrounding Hong Kong's 1997 handover to China. This defensive maneuver reflected the enduring conflict between the Keswicks and Chinese authorities, a tension dating back to the opium trade that had first enriched their ancestors and continuing into modern times as Beijing never forgot the company's role in China's century of humiliation. As the millennium drew to a close, the aging fourth generation prepared to hand control to their heirs, who would face an Asia dominated not by European colonial powers, but by China itself. The shadow of colonial history looms long over the fifth and sixth generations of Keswicks, who now command the trading empire built upon opium and imperialism nearly 2 centuries ago. In November 2024, the family patriarch Sir Henry Keswick passed away at 86 years old, having guided Jardine Matheson as chairman for decades, while orchestrating the delicate diplomatic dance of rebuilding relationships with China without loosening the family's iron grip on power. The mantle of leadership now rests with Ben Keswick, son of Simon Keswick, who assumed the position of executive chairman in 2012, becoming the latest in an unbroken line stretching back to William Jardine's time. Alongside Ben stands his cousin Adam Keswick, son of Sir Chippendale Chips Keswick, maintaining the family's tradition of collective leadership that has preserved their dynasty through revolutions and world wars. The youngest generation includes Archie Keswick, who joined the board in 2019 after holding various positions, including CEO of Pizza Hut Vietnam, venturing far beyond the trading floors that once defined the family business, but never straying from the ancestral imperative to control their commercial kingdom. These modern taipans preside over a conglomerate utterly unrecognizable to their ancestors, a Bermuda-domiciled, Hong Kong-based multinational with tentacles extending across Asia through a web of strategically controlled subsidiaries that would make a Bond villain envious. Today's Jardine Matheson no longer trades opium or silk, but instead dominates through gleaming skyscrapers, ubiquitous storefronts, luxury hotels, and automotive dealerships across Southeast Asia. Their crown jewel remains PT Astra International, Indonesia's largest automotive company, providing commanding position in Southeast Asia's largest economy, a brilliant pivot from the Chinese ports where the company first established its fortunes. Recent years have brought significant headwinds, with profits plummeting amid global economic turbulence. Yet the company maintained its generous dividend, speaking to the Keswick family's supreme confidence in their diversified portfolio's ability to weather storms that would sink lesser corporate vessels. The family's control remains absolute through a labyrinthine system of cross-shareholdings and voting rights that has frustrated outside investors but preserved their dynastic grip through market crashes, pandemics, and geopolitical upheavals. While their appointed CEO holds a minuscule fraction of company shares, he serves at the pleasure of the Keswicks, who continue their ancestors' tradition of maintaining strategic control while delegating day-to-day operations. And unlike many billionaire dynasties who flaunt their wealth across social media, the Keswicks maintain a remarkably low public profile, retreating to their 7,000-acre Scottish estates far from the Asian heat and paparazzi lenses, with the recent exception of Archie Keswick's relationship with Poppy Delavigne, sister of model Cara Delevingne. Thus, through wars, revolutions, financial meltdowns, and global pandemics, the Keswick family has demonstrated a remarkable ability to evolve while maintaining control, transforming from opium traders to property developers, from colonial merchants to multinational executives, yet always keeping family hands firmly on the tiller of the corporate vessel their ancestors launched. And now, we'd love to know your thoughts. Are you from Scotland or Southeast Asia? And had you heard of this family before? We look forward to hearing from you, so don't be shy and leave us a sentence or two. That said, thanks for joining us for another episode of Old Money Luxury, and cheers until the next time.